What are the top 10 most expensive states to live in America right now? And why are they so darn expensive? Well, that's what we're going to find out right now in this video. So there's a lot more that goes into what makes a state expensive or cheap than just the median price of a house or the rents in an area. You have to look at all the things that make up your daily living. Things like the price of gas and transportation, the price of groceries and eating out, the cost of healthcare, the cost of energy, and even the cost of childcare gets added in. And to come up with the overall cost of living, economists and data crunchers have come up with what is called a cost of living index. This index combines all of those factors and gives you a way to compare one state versus another. And it starts by looking at the country as a whole. And that creates the baseline cost of living index, which is given the number 100. And then they take the numbers for each state or area and compare it to that baseline of 100. If the number is above 100, it's more expensive than the national average. And of course, if it's below 100, then it's cheaper than the national average. So what are the top 10 states with a cost of living index above 100? Well, let's get moving. Our number 10 most expensive state in the country is Vermont. Vermont is an absolutely fantastic state to live in, with its beautiful and idyllic landscape and seasons, its friendly people and amazing quality of life. Heck, it was number 2 on our recent list of the top 10 best states to live in the US. But it's also a little bit more expensive to live than the national average, with a cost of living index of 117, which basically means it's about 17% more expensive to live in Vermont than the national average. Which really, if you love the outdoors, love the beauty of nature and seeing some of the best fall seasons in the country, and aren't too opposed to some pretty cold winters, is not too bad of a premium for getting a quality of life and the number 2 best state to live in the country. Number 9 is that tiny postage stamp state, Rhode Island. And Rhode Island comes in just a hair more expensive than its neighbor Vermont, with a cost of living index of 117.2. And like Vermont, there are a couple of drivers that make Rhode Island a bit more expensive than the national average. And one of the big ones is the cost of energy to keep those long winter days and nights warm enough to live in. And in addition to that, Rhode Island also has some of the highest electricity costs in the country. And that home in Rhode Island that you're heating and keeping the lights on in is also about $42,000 higher than the national average, making the cost of housing more expensive. But with its unique geographical location, being in close proximity to Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, it draws a lot of residents who want the beauty, quiet, and quality of life of the state, but who need to make the extra money to be able to live here by working in one of those 3 big cities. Number 8, Connecticut. As our third of 4 or 5 states in the Northeast that make this list, I'm beginning to see a pattern that living in the Northeast is pretty expensive overall in comparison to the rest of the country. And Connecticut comes in with a cost of living index of 121.6, making it about 22% more expensive than the national average. And like the other northeastern states, the winters and having to keep warm all winter definitely has an impact on its affordability. But that's not the only thing. Connecticut and its proximity to Manhattan has many neighborhoods that are coveted by the movers and shakers and the titans of industry who work in New York City but make their permanent home in Connecticut. But this isn't a new phenomenon. Places like Greenwich have been home to multi-million-dollar homes and estates going back to the Gilded Age of the Industrial Revolution, when the titans and barons of industry who had their businesses based in New York City made their homes that look like where the Great Gatsby would live. But Greenwich isn't the only place where housing is expensive. There's also New Canaan, Darien, Westport, and even Ridgefield in Connecticut. And now, our number 7, Maryland. Moving down a little bit, but still on the eastern seaboard, we have Maryland, coming in with a cost of living index of 124. With its proximity to our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and with its own big city of Baltimore and the strong economy in Maryland, one of the primary drivers for the high cost of living in the state are the housing costs, especially in the most desirable areas. These are the areas that not just the politicians and government officials want to make home, but also for the rank and file of the seemingly millions of government employees who keep our increasingly bloated and centralized government humming along, for good or bad. They need somewhere to make home, and for many, Maryland provides a good compromise. Number 6, Alaska. At twice the size of Texas, Alaska has a population of just over 700,000 versus Texas's nearly 30 million residents. Yes, Alaska is definitely one of the most beautiful states in our country, teeming with wildlife, natural beauty, and a treasure trove of natural resources. But because it is so far away from the rest of civilization and the general infrastructure, it is an expensive state to live in, with a cost of living index of 127.1. A big part of that high cost of living is due to the fact that just about everything has to be brought into the state from the rest of the nation. Sure, you can, and many do, hunt and fish for their own food. But it seems like anything but moose and salmon have to be brought in. You want Captain Crunch for breakfast? Better plan on paying for it like it was the omelet bar at the Four Seasons. Additionally, the energy costs are outrageously expensive, which is kind of surprising since they sit on some of the biggest energy reserves in the entire world. But that's the way it is, especially when the winters are so long and so treacherous. But if you are a nature lover who likes to rough it and have a fierce spirit of independence, Alaska could be your perfect new home. That brings us halfway through our list of the top 10 most expensive states to live in. I'd love to hear what your opinion is so far in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to not miss out on more deep dives into all the areas of our big, beautiful country. And coming in at number 5, Oregon. With a cost of living index of 130.1, Oregon is one of our 2 West Coast states to make the top 10, and for good reason. For a long time, Oregon was kind of a hidden gem, one of those areas where if you know, you know. But not too long ago, it seems like someone let the cat out of the bag about how beautiful and pristine this state is, and the population has exploded. This population explosion has made the cost of living skyrocket more than Elon's latest SpaceX launch. Especially in places like Portland, the onslaught of new residents and the lack of housing inventory has driven the prices from moderate and affordable to astronomical in many areas. Oregon also has a booming economy, with a booming tech, healthcare, and manufacturing sectors leading the charge. And there's no doubting that Oregon is gorgeous, especially its coastal areas. Now, it's a totally different vibe than a California or Florida beach environment, with its more overcast and rocky shoreline and cold water. I mean, it's unlikely that you're going to be hanging 10 on your surfboard unless you're a diehard, but the beauty of it is amazing. Number 4, Massachusetts. Massachusetts has, since the birthplace of our country, been a beacon of opportunity and a shining example of American ingenuity, and has always drawn big thinkers and big doers. And as a result, people continue to move here, with many choosing to never leave. And partly because of this, it has a cost of living index of 135. Home to many of the nation's top colleges and universities, including the prestigious Harvard and MIT, many of the nation's best and brightest who go to these colleges choose to stay and make their careers here. The tech economy continues to boom, healthcare continues to thrive, and to continue feeding these beasts, the wages and incomes of the talent continues to go up, pushing the cost of everything, including and especially housing, through the roof. On top of that, you have the cold and fairly long winters that eat up a lot of dollars trying to keep warm. But you can't beat getting a sausage and pepper sandwich from one of the street carts on Lansdowne Street before heading into Fenway to watch the Sox take on the Yankees. Just saying. And number 3, California. California is an interesting one. With an overall state cost of living index of 142.2, it's actually a case of depends where you live. Let's first start with the fact that California is huge, with multiple proportionally huge and expensive metropolitan areas. Places like San Francisco and the whole Bay Area, the entire Los Angeles metro area, and San Diego. And in these areas, everything, and I mean everything, is significantly more expensive than the rest of the country. Housing is through the roof. In LA, you can pay more than $1,500 a month for a 400 square foot studio apartment in a pretty shoddy neighborhood. Want a house? Expect to spend $800,000 or more in most areas for a starter home. In my research, I came across the statistic that to live a typical median American life in LA, you would need to make more than double the national average salary, in excess of $120,000. Now, there's a lot of people in just the LA area, and I can guarantee you that they're not all pulling in $120K plus. And the disparity just gets wider when you go to an area like San Francisco and the Bay Area, where so many high-paying tech jobs are located. But on the flip side, you have a lot of agricultural areas and Central California, where the cost of living is more reasonable and much closer to the national average. But the question is, do you want to live in some of those more reasonable areas of California? Number 2. New York. To most, this probably doesn't come in as a big surprise. New York has long been recognized as one of the most expensive states to live in the country. And no surprise here, with the cost of living index of 148.2. Now, a lot of this is driven by the cost of living in Manhattan and even the surrounding boroughs. But it has to be kind of expected. New York has been the center of the financial and industrial universe for so long that it has drawn the best and the brightest to take their shot and go for the literal gold. But that's not to say that everyone can afford living here. And like California, there's a wide gap between the haves and have a little bit less. And because of this, there's a big disparity between the classes, and what is available for some is definitely not available to all. And as a result, if you're not in that tier of the haves, New York can be a pretty rough place to get by. But like Frank Sinatra sang, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And if you can't, it might be better to catch my next video, the top 10 cheapest states to live in the US. And topping our list at number 1, Hawaii. And Hawaii comes in at a whopping cost of living index of 193.3. I guess paradise does have a price, and it is expensive. Hawaii is absolutely gorgeous. From the beaches to the lush green mountains, Hawaii has something for everyone. But while it is a beautiful place to visit, it's definitely not an easy place to live, at least financially. Just about every single thing that you need in Hawaii has to be shipped in. It's even more isolated than our number 6, Alaska. At least there you can truck some items in. That means you're paying extra for almost everything you need or use on a daily basis. You want milk or a steak, you have to pay for it to get flown or boated in. But it doesn't stop with food. You want to gas up your car? Well, that too, my friends, has to be brought in. Now, the good news is that you probably need less gas than in California since you're on an island. But still, it gets expensive. I've dreamt about living in a Hawaiian paradise, but at twice the national average for cost of living, maybe I'm just happy going there for a couple of weeks every couple of years. Now that you've seen the 10 most expensive states to live in America, you should check out my video on the 10 worst states to live in the US, which I'm putting up on the screen now. And be sure to subscribe to not miss the next video exploring all the fantastic states, cities, and locations to live in America. Thanks for watching. The Relocation King out.